Episode 40 this week, A Wolf in the Fold. This one, a Mr. Scott heavy episode. Scotty was the feature of this one of the few times they did a Mr. Scott centric episode. Essentially, they're on the planet Argilia 2 for some R&R because Scotty had an accident, hit his head, and was suffering from a concussion. So Captain Kirk took him down to this planet Argilia 2, which looked very Turkish. The design was very Turkish. They're at this planet watching belly dancers, and then Captain Kirk said, "Good news," to Dr. McCoy. He'd gotten Scotty a woman. He's like, "I made arrangements. She'll go with Mr. Scott." Dr. McCoy said, "That's perfect cure for a concussion, apparently." Never heard that before, but that's what they prescribed for Scott, hanging out with a belly dancer. Before Kirk and McCoy could go to the next dance club, they heard screaming. They ran over. Mr. Scott's standing there with a bloody knife. The woman's murdered. They're like, "What happened, Scotty?" He couldn't remember. Couldn't remember it. So the investigator comes in, this guy named Hengist, and he takes the lead in the investigation. The actual person in charge of the planet, he comes over. They find out that Hengist isn't actually from the Argilia 2. He's from a different planet, which is why they put him in charge of investigations, apparently. The person in charge of the planet says his wife conducts seances, so she'll get to the bottom of things. They say, "Sure, that sounds logical." So they go to his house. Kirk orders a crewman down with a device that's supposed to provide the memory of the person it's attached to, or something to that effect. Before she can hook up the equipment, there's another scream. She's dead. There's Mr. Scott holding the knife. Then the knife disappears. They don't know what's happening. Scott can't remember anything. So they go to do the seance. The woman in charge of the seance dies. There's Scott holding her. They're like, "What did you do?" He's like, "I don't know. I can't remember it." So they go up to the ship to hook the device up to get his memories. They take Hengist and the planet leader with them. 25 minutes of the trial later, they find out that Hengist had the embodiment of Jack the Ripper in him. He'd been like a mass murderer that has lived thousands of years, goes planet to planet and kills people, apparently. And he went body to body. He'd go into dead people and make them stand up and laugh and weird stuff, and he'd go out of the body and laugh and make noise. So Kirk told Dr. McCoy to give everybody tranquilizers because they figured without fear and without being afraid, they could control the thing. So McCoy gives tranquilizers and stuff to the whole crew. They're all loopy, except for Kirk and Spock, because Kirk's like, "I have to stay clear-headed." McCoy's like, "Me too," and Kirk's like, "No, you don't. No, you don't." They eventually beam the thing out into space, take care of him that way. Mr. Scott's in the clear, and his concussion's all better. And Kirk wants to go down to the planet and I go to this club that he was talking about earlier. He was going to take Spock, and then he's like, "Forget it. Spock wouldn't appreciate it." And that's how the thing ended. Some interesting notes. No Uhura in this episode. No Mr. Sulu in this episode. And the guy that played Hengist, John Finnegan, a week later made his debut as the voice of Piglet on Winnie the Pooh. He was the voice of Piglet. Much later, decades later, he was a guest star on Golden Girls. He sure was. But he was in this episode of Star Trek playing this crazy alien thing that went body to body and had been Jack the Ripper, and then showed up on this planet Argilia 2, which looked a lot like Turkey. And he apparently murdered people and blamed Mr. Scott, who was concussed at the time. Couldn't remember because of his concussion. Although dating a belly dancer would have cured it, apparently, according to Captain. So pretty much, that's the episode.